Hey YouTube family, how are you guys doing? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another episode of you and me checking out and setting up gear in my basement. This is a Fender Acoustasonic Player Jazzmaster. Fender logo, kind of a rosewood-ish fretboard. Not sure if it's real rosewood to be honest. Looks like it. Nice little guitar. Just like an electric, really. You got full access to the high frets. This belongs to a friend of mine. And she says she never plays it because the action is way too high. Check this out. Look at the height of that. Might not look too bad on camera, but when you take a measurement, at the low E, we're getting 0.080 or 2.25. And at the high E, we're getting 0.070 or 2. Well, 1.75, I guess. So yeah, super high. Feels like you're fighting every note. However, at the first fret, the nut is cut pretty much perfectly. A little bit on the high side, but nothing major. I thought I'd do a quick video, show you how you can lower the action on an acoustic guitar, and this works with any acoustic guitar, but proceed with caution because some people go too aggressive or maybe not aggressive enough or whatever, so it's better to be safer than sorry because you can't undo what I'm about to show you. So if you're not comfortable doing this, do not do it. So basically, here's how it works. Your scale length is from the nut to your saddle, right? Which is this black piece sitting inside the bridge here. My action at the 12th fret, which is half of my scale length, right, is 0.080. I would like the action at the 12th fret to be no higher than 0.06. So you take your first number, 0.08, subtract it by the second number, 0.06. You end up with 0.02. Times that number by 2 because we are doubling the distance, right, from half to the bridge. So the answer is 0.04. So that 0.04 is how much we need to take off of this saddle to drop the action. But before we do that, you always want to check your relief. So make sure the guitar is tuned first, which we're going to do. Then we're going to check the relief and set that. And then we're going to retake our measurement. So remember that number, right? 0.080, 0.06 is what we want. And that's even a little high. I would go 0.05, but on an acoustic guitar where you really strum, might want to have it a little bit more on the high side than an electric. We'll see, but we can always take more off, but we can't add more unless you're going with shims and stuff, and you don't really want to get into that. So, first thing, we tune this thing. Okay, we're tuned. Why are you tuning the guitar, Jason? Why don't you just drop the action and you'll tune it later? Because you're going to have to untune it to drop the action if you got to pull this saddle out of the bridge. Yeah, good question. But the reason is because you don't want to make any bridge adjustments before you know that your neck is set the way you want it. So this is how relief works. So let's say that my arm is the neck of the guitar. So this is the body of the guitar. This is the headstock of the guitar. When I tune the strings, the string is anchored up here at the headstock, and it's anchored down here at the bridge. And as I tighten those strings or bring them to pitch, the tension on the strings wants to bring the neck this way. The truss rod adjustment in the neck keeps it where you want it, at the relief that you want. Now the relief is the amount of curve that you have in your neck, roughly around the middle of the neck. The string is always going to be running straight, right? The string is like a straight edge. So the relief is the amount of space you have between the bottom of the string and the top of your fret, right? Where that truss rod is doing the most of the work. So if you add relief, you're adding more space. If you take relief away, if you tighten the truss rod, you're naturally lowering the action. So you want to check to make sure that your neck is relatively straight. Now, everybody has a different way of doing it. Some people use feeler gauges. Some people use like a piece of paper. Some people, anyway, I just use my eye. Basically, take a capo, put it at the first fret. Take the other hand, fret the E string where the guitar body meets the neck. And then find that middle position, fret 7, 8, or 9, somewhere in there, and check. Now, I have quite a bit of movement there, okay? So I'm just going to show you this. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. You see that string moving? It's moving quite a bit. For some people, that's totally fine. And it's not, a crazy amount of relief. But for me and for a guitar like this, that has a full length neck that you can access, that's too much. So I'm going to tighten the truss rod and take some of that relief out. By doing that, my action is going to go down. It's not going to go down as much as I want it to go down, but my initial numbers will probably need to be adjusted before I start filing this nut. So let's get right to it. So I have a 1/8 inch truss rod wrench here. So I'm going to insert it the long way because the short way, it won't reach down in there. That truss rod hole is pretty deep, so you got to put the long side in. And then we are going to go towards the right. And a lot of times, the other end doesn't give you enough leverage to turn it. Well, I have a small little kit here of screwdriver and lots of ends that I use for working on guitars. So I'm just going to use this small little 4mm socket. I'm going to attach it to my socket adapter. That's going to go in my screwdriver. That's all magnetic. And now the other end of the truss rod wrench will go in here, and that'll give me my leverage that I need to turn it. So, nice and easy, quarter turn at a time. And we'll see how that goes. All right, there's a quarter turn. As I take relief out of the neck, what's happening to your strings? They're getting tighter, right? So the pitch is going up. So again, I'm going to retune because I want my neck to be perfect. Now, you don't have to, I know some people be, oh, you're too fussy. I know I'm too fussy, but hey, yeah, I'm particular when it comes to setting up someone else's guitar. So, see, everything is sharp now. And another thing when you're tuning, never tune down to pitch, always tune up to pitch, because when you're tuning down to pitch, you're releasing the tension of the coil windings here of the string, and they may or may not effortlessly slide through your nut, so they might be binding. As soon as you hit the string and you make it go side to side, that's going to pull the string through the nut, and it's going to be past where you want it to be tuned. So then you'll have to bring it up anyway. So down tune, give the strings a little pull, and tune up to pitch. Some people say, oh, you don't have to be that fussy. Well, if Fender was that fussy, I wouldn't have to set up this guitar now, would I? $1,700 these things cost in Canada. And it's in J-Man's basement getting set up because Fender didn't do their job. I understand a truss rod adjustment, lubricating the nut, polishing your own frets, that kind of stuff. That's just regular maintenance stuff. Bridge setup, that should be done by Fender on a $1,700 guitar. When you're adjusting your truss rod, if your truss rod is at this end, you look at it from this end. That will be to the right, and this will be to the left. If your truss rod is at this end of the neck, you look at it from this end. So this way, right, will be to the right, and this way will be to the left, right? So righty, tighty, you're taking relief out of the neck. Lefty, loosey, you're adding relief. Now we're going to check again, and it's pretty instantaneous. You're going to see it. All right, I have a little bit of movement. That's perfect. That's all I want. I just want that string to move, and that's it. See that? I think you can see that a little bit. Very minimal, right? But I'm getting some movement. And that's great. That's all I want. So now, make sure when you take those measurements, you take that capo off. All right. Now I'm going to check that again. So now we're at 0.07 and 0.06. So had I taken 2 millimeters off, I'd be like probably lower than I want to be. So just to be on the safe side, I'm at 0.07. I want this at 0.06. 7 minus 6 is 1, right? 0.01. 0.01 times 2 is 0.02. So I got to take 0.02 millimeters off the bottom of this saddle. String should be loose enough for me to take it out. And you want to be careful because there's a pickup wire underneath this bridge. So you go nice and easy. Here's the nut. Okay, so we have to take 0.02 off the bottom. So I'm going to take out a 0.02 feeler gauge. I'm going to put the nut in the flat surface. I'm going to put the feeler gauge on the flat surface. I'm going to tape the feeler gauge down. Don't want it to move. I'm going to draw a mark. There's my little line. Right? So I only have to take that much off. How do we do that? Come on, I'll show you. Get yourself a piece of angle iron. I put a little piece of paint stick on the back just to make it smoother and to build it out a little bit. An angle iron isn't perfectly square. It's got a rounded corner. Well, at least this one did. So I wanted something that was square. And 220 grit sandpaper. And that way you can take your nut, hold it right up against the backside so that your nut is flat and it's not leaning. And then just simply walk it back and forth. See that black mess in there? Well, that's material coming off your nut. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back to you when it's done. All right, I don't know if you can see that, but we are right at the line. I can still see my line, but there's no material left under the line. So I'm going to stop there, and we'll go check what kind of results we have. Pop this nut back in there. Again, nice and easy. Go. Tune up these strings and see where we're at with our action. Couple more. Definitely a difference. How much of a difference? Check. 0.06, 0.05. There we go. All right, I'm going to lubricate this nut and we'll do a little sound check. I just have this plugged through my Quilter Superblock UK, and it's set like I would have my electric guitar set, and it's running through Headrush FRFR speaker. And I also have that Line 6 DM4 distortion modeler on the floor at my feet here. Not that we'll use it with an acoustic guitar, but we'll see what this can do. Yeah. Okay, so back here is this pickup for sure. Nothing there. Middle position. Nothing there. Oh, yeah, we got this one. And top position. Okay, so I don't know what's going on, but so back position is this pickup here. So the humbucker, or whatever the heck you want to call it. And middle position is the piezo or whatever's under there. And then the top position is still this pickup, but it sounds different. So here's the bridge, I guess. Middle. Sounds like a real acoustic. And then way up top we have this. It's just it's bassier, not as articulate. Now again, I'm running through an electric guitar rig. Feels like an electric guitar. Doesn't really play like one because the strings are stiff, right? Because they're acoustic strings. But if you had light gauge strings on this, it would wail. I just don't know how it would sound. Good. All right, back to bridge. Sounds more like an electric. Okay, let's dial this knob all the way to the top. Blend knob and see what we got. Oh, we get drive. A little bit of drive. Let's add some distortion and see what happens. lot of fun with this. If I ever buy an acoustic guitar, this will have to be it. That's how you set up your acoustic guitar. Make sure your neck is straight or wherever you want it. Take your measurement at the 12th fret. Push the string down to where you would like your measurement to be. Subtract those two numbers. Multiply by 2 because you're going to the bridge, which has double the length. And that is the amount you have to take off of the bottom of your saddle. And you are good to go. So take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.